Welcome back. Right, we are going through the newspapers now with broadcaster Andrew Eborn and journalist and writer Emma Woolf. And there's plenty of interesting stories about. In The Sun on Sunday, Emma, there is a very interesting article that we were thinking, is it the first time he's done a proper interview like this with James Hewitt.
Yeah, so James...
formerly known as Princess Diana's
lover for about 5 years. He was famously the love rat. You know, everyone branded him the love rat. And he's been speaking out, and he now works for a charity in Ukraine and sort of driving aid over there and things like that. But he's been speaking out about the infamous, you're all far too young to remember, the infamous 1995 Panorama interview. Yes. That Bashir did with Princess Diana, and he's been talking about how that was kind of, you know, really quite deceitful, the way that Bashir used her, drew her in, got her to really speak out about things, and sort of drip-fed her little bits of information. Oh, your friend said this about you, and, you know, obviously it's been subject to many, many, many investigations, actually, over the years, the Bashir interview. Yep. But James Hewitt says that he was also kind of maligned in that, and that I think the whole affair has been, I mean, it's kind of come to define his life, which is sad.
Yeah, really sad. I'll tell you what's really sad. I had the joy of interviewing Charles Spencer a number of times on my show, and the really sad thing is Diana went to her grave thinking that those very close to her had betrayed her.
I know, there was an interview with the driver. Her driver, a couple of weeks ago, gave an interview, said he was the most trusted driver. He's the one always pictured dropping her off, collecting her and all the rest of it. And then suddenly she froze him out. Suddenly, with no explanation at all. And he said it was really hurtful, nearly gave him a nervous breakdown and everything. And it wasn't until the daughter of his wife happened to be watching The Crown and saw, in the episode about Bashir, saw that Bashir deliberately pointed the finger at the driver to her and told her, it's your driver who's giving away all your secrets, it's your driver who's got a tracer on the car and microphones in the car. And that's why she froze him out. And he said what really, since then, since The Crown, he has successfully taken out some sort of a lawsuit. But, and he's been paid, I think. But he said the fact that really hurts him is that she went to her grave believing he betrayed her when he never did.
And she was very paranoid about certain things anyway. She had issues with trust and so on and so forth. And I think that is the scandal. It must never happen again.
But when you're a high-profile, when you're that high-profile figure, celebrity of that way, and you're in a car and you're talking on your phone, you're making arrangements and you talk to the people that you spend a lot of time with, which is your kind of hair and makeup people and your driver and the people around you. And the way that Bashir spread these lies out and completely made her even more paranoid, and kind of it infects entire families and friendships.
Why has he really never been held to account?
Well, he should be. I mean, they should turn around now, because there were also the fake, you might remember, the fake bank accounts as well. Showing transfers of money which never happened. So you're right, we should not, this should be yet another chance.
I don't understand why he's still walking around as though nothing happened.
I don't know what the... well, Andrew would know more about this. I don't know what legal prosecution you can bring against people.
It's fraud. They obtained interviews. It was a horrendous deception. The BBC, that I talked about trust coming in on foot and leaving on horseback, the BBC, they're shining a spot on them all the time. Now we should revisit it with this story coming out accordingly.
And at the time of the Dyson report, the Prince William did a on-camera interview, a very rare on-camera interview, slamming the BBC, slamming Martin Bashir, calling him a rogue journalist. And I remember at that time, Bashir was using the excuse that he was ill or suffering from long COVID or something like that. But, you know, that was a couple of years ago now. That was in 2021, I believe. So we're 3 years on, and I think there's a lot of very angry former staff members of Diana, Princess of Wales. She got rid of her security.
But Bashir should come on and apologise now, and that's what we should do.
Yeah, but just to play devil's advocate, how much longer do we keep going over and over this? This is now, what, 19, nearly 20 years ago, and the BBC have quite a lot more, I would say, even more serious cases, such as Hugh Edwards.
In answer to that, because I always play devil's advocate, and I think you're absolutely right, we keep on going over it until we get a resolution. We have not had a resolution. We need to make sure it never happens again, and only by addressing it and making sure there are repercussions can we prevent that.
He ruined people's lives.
No, I know, and that's why I say even more serious.
He ruined hers.
Yes.
And, I mean, and as you say, there are links to the fact that she gave up her security and all the rest of it. There are links to her accident, you could argue. And I don't think it's good enough that he's walking around as though it never happened.
Didn't he win a BAFTA for the Panorama interview?
I think
they won all sorts of prizes. And actually, there were, again, playing devil's advocate, if you like, doing the other role, there were lots of good things that came out as a result of it, but it came as a lie, and we can never have journalists never stoop that low where you're faking documents.
I'm sorry, I don't
people.
think he's a journalist.
But look at
crook.
ethical standards and look at the phone hacking scandals and all of that. Things have changed. Things have been cleaned up somewhat in the media and in journalism. But this was, this was kind of standard practice. This was the way that you did obtain access to very, very high-profile people.
Not by falsifying bank.
Not by falsifying. No. I mean, that
is journalists would never
telling a princess
fraud.
that she couldn't trust her driver, and as I said, ruining people's lives. He went far too far.
And he lied to her brother Charles, and that's what we found out about it, by showing these fake bank accounts. Saying, look, you can look at the payments going over here.
Because he went to Charles first, didn't he?
He did.
And then Charles persuaded Diana to meet him.
And he's spoken out publicly about this, as I say.
I mean, I'm sorry, the whole thing was so disgusting.
It is disgusting.
Yeah.
We should call it
really
out
shocking.
and make sure, in answer to that, until there's been a resolution, until Bashir's apologised and there's been repercussions, it's not going to rest.
It's not good enough, no. Can we move on? Well, this is an extraordinary story because it says something about our life and times.
Yes.
The Sun on Sunday, that things like advent calendars in shops are having to have security tags on them because people are nicking them.
And it's crazy, it's like a £2 advent calendar is what they're giving the example of. They've got these little stickers, so alarms go off and things like that if you nick it. Well, first of all, it's really sad. People have got the choice between heating and eating this year. You want to try and do things. They've deliberately reduced the price of certain things so you can have advent for a couple of quid. But the fact that people have to nick them and that shops are really worried about it says all sorts of things. But it also highlights, again, the two-tier system that we have. If you turn around people getting prosecuted for hate speech and so on and so forth, and shoplifting doesn't get a look in.
Yeah.
So from the retailer's point of view, how sad it is that they have to do it. And from the public's point of view, how sad that they're forced into taking it.
The thing is, nowadays, there are some very expensive advent calendars on the market. You can get gin ones, you can get cheese ones, wine, and they cost a fortune. Some are like over £100. So it's not, we're not just talking about the tiny chocolate ones here.
Well, this particular story says that even you're right about the £100 ones, we'd understand it. And they put these funny little security things on bottles now so people don't nick them. But the reality is these are £2 advent calendars. They've looked at the examples and they're turning around and saying, well, it's crazy, isn't it?
Well, I spent nearly £40 on an advent calendar that was meant to be full of these amazing toys because I didn't want my little one eating chocolate every single morning throughout December. These toys were just bits of plastic. I mean, it was a huge thing because it had all these toys in it for every door. But, oh, my goodness, what a weight, what a load of tat, frankly. Yeah. But you talk about these security tags. If you look, I was in the supermarket the other day, every single bottle of the wine, in the wine set, every single bottle had a security tag on it. The fridge with the expensive, the gin and the brandy in, had a button on that you had to press to ask a security person to come and open the fridge in order to get a bottle out.
And the trouble is the checkout people have real difficulties getting them off, so they're all smashing the bottles to get the things off. So it is a nightmare, but it's highlighting that issue. The fact it's £2, and that's the story. The fact it's a £2.
It's the fact that shoplifters are so rife now and think they can get away with it.
And actually, the ones that are just filling up their stuff, filling a bag and running out, they don't care whether they set off the alarm because no one's going after them.
Focus on shoplifting instead of hate crime and so on and so forth, because the outrageous thing like the Telegraph story and Alison and what that's happened there is crazy. The more we get this sort of two-tier justice system...
Police the streets, not tweets.
Absolutely. Police the streets, not tweets.
And Emma, just briefly, Colleen Rooney going into the jungle tonight. Wants to move on from the Wagatha Christie scandal.
She does. They've got this sort of, in-depth report on how she said goodbye to her 4 boys and said goodbye to her husband. Well, that's what you do. And then they took the phone off her. But it's interesting. She says, I feel secluded from the world. I'm not sure she means secluded, but I know what she's trying to say.
It's a fantastic
but not having their phone out there for someone like Colleen Rooney.
Yes.
But she says she wants to be just known as the girl from Liverpool.
The Scouse trap.
A good
Scouser. Goes down as the Scouse trap.
Yeah, she says just wants to be the girl from Liverpool. She wants to put the Wagatha Christie thing behind her.
I don't know her, but those that do say she's up for it. She's good.
Yeah.
She'll be
the
more
winner.
impressive
We'll
than
predict that
we
early.
think.
Yeah, she will.
Well, you have to be. When you've got 4 children, you're quite steely, aren't you?
It's a great platform to get voice.
Rebecca Vardy has got the job for The Sun on commenting.
Hilarious.
So that's going to be pretty vitriolic.
Yes.
And I'm sure ITV boss is going to be hoping for a few stories on the case.
I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped Rebecca Vardy in somewhere near the end.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe she can be her friends that
that would be good,
towards
wouldn't
the
it?
final.
Rather good.
Well, that would certainly make headlines for sure.
I don't want to end on a bad note, but Andrew, you've been looking in the Daily Star about Christmas chaos for travellers.
Oh, isn't it awful? Every year we get this, don't we? They're talking about trains being delayed and so on and so forth. People trying to make their way home to Christmas is going to get harder and harder, and history repeats itself because we don't learn the lessons from history. So, sadly, that's what's going to happen. Plan early if you're going to do it. Start cycling, that's the best way. Emma cycles everywhere.
Yeah, but if you live... I mean, all my my family are in London, but if you live up in Scotland, you can't cycle home for Christmas.
You'll be surprised.
Cycling home for Christmas with all your presents on your back, it's hard enough going from one side of London to the other. Let me tell you.
It's not strikes and things.
Yes.
It is engineering shutdown.
Well, that leaves on the things.
But they have to do this stuff at a time when people are not commuting, so they do it over Christmas, which causes misery.
I would much rather be disrupted commuting into work, sorry bosses, than spending time family at Christmas.
It is a scandal about the whole rail system. I've just come back from Japan, where they have the most efficient rail system in the world. It runs to the nanosecond on time. We basically are the prices of our rail tickets. It's cheaper for me to fly down to Nice than it is for me to go up to Scotland. It's nonsense.
All they need to do is do this work overnight. That's what Germany do. I bet that's what Japan do. They close the lines down. They work on this stuff overnight, and then it runs during the day.
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for the station staff that's going to have to deal with angry passengers.
Yeah, very much so. OK, sorry about that. Bad news for Christmas. Just don't travel anywhere. Right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you in the next hour. Right now, you'll want to know how the weather is going to treat you today. Family. Right, let's go through the newspapers now with Andrew Eborn and Emma Woolf. Thank you so much for coming back.
Lovely to be here.
Do you fancy a quick one at the Whippet Inn?
Oh, always.
Andrew?
Always. Whenever there's a double entendre, I just want to whip it out. And I'll tell you what.
Oh, Andrew, stop.
Thank you. We're here all week. What I love is a glorious article in The Sun today.
Yeah.
And they're talking about people taking offence at pub names. And it all started with what was the Midget Inn.
Midget pub.
The Midget pub, you might remember. And they claim it's nothing to do with dwarfism. It's to do with the midget sports car. And apparently there's lots of these things. The polished knob, for example, is to do with these shiny door handles.
Yes.
The jug is to do with baskets used by fishwives, is what they say. The cock and pullet is to do with the male cock and female pullet chicken, is what they say. The Old Cock, which is a very famous pub which you go to all the time if you go down the Strand, that's basically to do with a cock ale. They used to have that. Also, Dirty Dicks refers to somebody called Richard Bentley, who never used to wash, apparently. And that's why it's called Dirty Dicks. And the two helmets is basically to do with, obviously, the army and stuff like that. So nothing new or rude about that. Traditional pub names.
Shall I raise the tone a little bit?
Well,
you know Ye Olde Cocky Tavern?
Yes.
Ye Old Cock Tavern on the Strand? My great-aunt Virginia Woolf and Leonard lived there for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
After their honeymoon. Isn't that curious that you would move into rooms above a pub?
Isn't that, did they used to giggle at the name?
In the 1920s? No, I don't think Ye Olde Cock Tavern was thought to be funny in those days.
One isn't allowed to giggle anymore at any double.
It is such a shame, isn't it? The dirty habit, apparently, in Maidstone, Kent, refers to clothing of the thirsty pilgrims and not to anything naughty they might get up to. What I love, there are lots of great pub names around there. A lot of people are being cancelled. I think we should bring them back and celebrate them.
I don't think we should get rid of them.
No, well, let's see. They're a good tradition, aren't they, all these historical pubs?
Absolutely.
Anyway, lots more stories to get through. Call on that net zero, Sakir, the Mail on Sunday's front page, Emma.
Yeah, well, frankly, lots of us have been saying that COP29, I mean, 29, what more do you need to know? This is an annual hypocrisy junket. The Mail on Sunday have revealed that 470, we sent 470 delegates from Britain.
Isn't it?
This is more than the US sent.
Crazy.
They're quite a lot bigger than us. It's more than Italy sent, Germany sent, France sent, many countries withdrawing, China not really taking part. 5,000-mile round trip. This cost millions to the taxpayer in Britain. And, frankly, annual. This is an annual climate change summit.
It is a complete nonsense, isn't it?
Ed Miliband has flown 23,000 miles in the interest of talking about global warming since the general election. This is a farce. This needs to stop.
It is totally
Either they do the conference on Zoom, fine. If you want to get together every year...
It won't have any impact at all on...
But this is not having an impact on global warming. The key players weren't even there. Well, and this is costing us millions.
I'll tell you what I love, is that Donald Trump, in his campaign, talked about the climate hoax, and he was not going to spend another penny on this sort of side. It's very interesting what's going to happen on that sort of basis, because he's been very clear that this is what's going to happen. And all of his policies now got my mate, Elon Musk, and his father, Errol Musk, is on my show every day. I love that. And we talk about that sort of policies. But they're getting rid of all these things. The hypocrisy of COP29, where people flying in, and Starmer sending so many people, it's absolute nonsense.
It's a staggering carbon footprint. You don't, I mean, I'm very green. I really believe in this stuff. You don't have to go as far as Donald Trump and saying none of it matters, there's no climate change, whatever.
Good accent, by the way.
But this was a massive carbon footprint
Yes.
and his ongoing carbon footprint. You know, they're all off to Brazil next year. That one will be well attended.
If you look, we had the joy of talking about this many times in the studio, and every time we talk about the hypocrisy, don't we? Why fly in? And why have so many people?
And telling, you know, hard-working people not to have an annual holiday in Spain, not to drive their car, not to drive their kids to school, not to drive to their job. Meanwhile, they are flying around. Keir Starmer has barely been off a plane since the election.
Yeah, and you make the point, Emma, that this is now 29th.
29?
What actual tangible change
Well, we've already
see
missed the Paris Agreement, the 1.5 degrees.
It's over that now, isn't it?
We've missed that. And that was COP20, I think it was 24, 25.
Well, that was a fair COP, that one. But you're right, you're working on that sort of basis. We're going to talk about it and going to keep on going forever.
Do you know what COP stands for?
Go on, then.
Community of Peoples?
Yeah.
Community of the...
Yes.
Well done. Look at you, got a bonus point today.
I assumed the C stood for climate, but apparently not. Yes,
No.
but as you say, Brazil's going to be interesting next year. I think Prince William's also...
I think there'll be more people at Brazil than were at Glasgow COP.
Yes.
Wouldn't you?
A bit warmer, a bit nicer.
Yeah, exactly.
But
A bit
we
more
love
fun.
Glasgow, though.
Tell us about David Blunkett.
Yes.
He's in the Sun. He's writing in the Sun today about something maybe we should all be concerned about.
Well, he's been writing. He's blind and was with his guide dog and was getting onto Westminster Tube station, the Jubilee line, and he's been talking. He had a very bad fall. His legs went down, the huge gap. He's been talking about the big gaps between platforms and trains and tubes, and he's saying it's not enough just to have these announcements. Mind the gap, mind the gap. You know, he said, I'm blind. There was no assistance. He was really quite badly injured. He's recently had a heart attack. He's been in intensive care anyway, but he's now been in and out of hospital for a few weeks, being treated for quite nasty injuries on his leg. As someone with a young child, it's very dangerous, you know?
It is very dangerous.
Even young children, you have to lift them over these gaps. And of course, all trains are different, all platforms are different. It's quite hard, but the gaps and the height
It is, Chris, and a lot of people don't mind the gap.
Disabled people, elderly people, young people, it just is not safe.
And you have to look at that.
Problem that can be solved, though.
Well, they are solving it, because in parts of Westminster, we were discussing this earlier, because parts of Westminster, you have a little sliding door to make sure nobody can get on until they do that.
Yeah.
You look at train systems around the world, we talked about Japan earlier, just make it safe. I used to have a business with David Blunkett, lovely, lovely guy.
He is a nice
lovely guy. But even with those who are not lovely, we should still look after them. And what happens, it takes people to talk out about these situations to make sure we do change. So they should look at this. They should turn around now so we don't have these casualties, because that's the reality. Let's look at the common denominator. It is not safe at the moment.
A friend of mine, the pram wheels went forward down.
They go in.
And that is terrifying. So you always go backwards. New mums always go backwards.
Old mums do that as well, absolutely.
The problem is the tube network in London is so sporadic in terms of stations built at different times,
Everything is
different change, so nothing is uniform.
Exactly.
It's really hard for TfL to make
But the same across the rail network. There are some trains where you come in and the platform is a good climb. You almost have to climb onto the train.
It's very dangerous.
And I don't know how you're meant to navigate that if you're in a wheelchair, if you're an elderly person, how on earth, or you just have a lot of baggage and kids, and it's not fit for purpose.
It's so nice to have uniformed people.
Well, bring back gentlemen, Anne. Bring back gentlemen who would say, and they would seize your bags, let me take that, and you think, where are you running off to?
Well, they have, I say, I've just come back from Japan. In Japan, they have helped to push you all on.
Yeah, they push you
every inch, you're sort of squashed in.
But David Blunkett called it a death trap.
Yeah, it is a death trap.
It's very, very serious.
There are still gentlemen around, you know.
Yeah.
There are. There's two of them sitting here at the moment.
We try.
You get on an aeroplane and honestly, you've got a bag with you and you can't get it.
I know.
Yes.
You need a lot of lower body strength.
I have been. It's probably just a sign of getting older, but I have been helped such a lot by really lovely young gentlemen. Very nice. It is too.
Because you're famous.
No, I think
not at all.
people are
Nothing to
nice
do,
anyway.
no,
You should help people out, and I think that's all you should do: is spread kindness.
Male or
help
female,
people
you
out.
should help people out.
Be considerate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but never acknowledge that a woman's pregnant because she might not be.
No, that's absolutely right.
Never do that.
Good heavens.
OK, we've got to leave it there, but it's lovely to have you for a bit longer this time as well.
Thank you.
Right now, it's time for the weather.